Todd Shellnut here with CFI Pro Courses, and today we're going to take our knowledge of being an instructor to the next level. You simply just cannot use the regulations to give you the information that you need. You got to have that special little oomph, that little extra to know your job and know what's responsible of you as a flight instructor. So what we have here on this particular page here is what is known as FSIMS. And FSIMS stands for Flight Standards Information Management System. And this is the FAA's guide to how they do their job. And if you were to go to the FAA's website and you just put in FSIMS, and it will come up on this particular page here. And this is going to really start defining what you should know as a professional instructor. Now, I'm not talking about your average Joe. Now, I'm talking about if you want to take yourself to the next level and you want to know your trade better than the next person, you want to stand out, this is where you go to really stand out. Now, the last video that I did for you, I promised that I would tell you more ways that you could renew and or reinstate, and I am going to follow through with that first. But let's look and see where I find my information from. So in the 8900.1, which is also called FSIMS, there are a couple of volumes. And as you can see here, volume 5 is for Airman certification, and that's where I want you to be. So we're going to click on this. When you do, you're going to see it has different chapters, and we're going to look down through the different chapters and see which ones apply to us. And if we look down through here, we can actually see that Chapter 2 is called 14 CFR Part 61, Certification of Pilots and Flight Instructors. That's definitely where we want to be because that's exactly what we're talking about. And it gives you 22 items here that you can deal with, or that the Aviation Safety Inspector from the Flight Standards District Office is going to deal with in regards to certifying pilots and flight instructors under 14 CFR Part 61. And there are a lot of things here that we can do. So if you want to see exactly how a aviation safety inspector conducts a flight review, well, you click on that and you read it. But what we are most concerned with is the flight instructor. So if I go down to section 11, it says conduct a Title 14 CFR Part 61 flight instructor initial, reinstatement, renewal certification, and adding on an additional category of class rating. So we're going to click there. It's going to open up a different window for us. I'm going to go ahead and expand this all the way out so we have good reading of it. And if you look through this in regards to flight instructors, this is going to give you the full Monty, everything you need to know outside of what you need to know from the PTS. And don't ever let an aviation safety inspector tell you that this is their way they do their job and this doesn't apply to you. That is a bunch of crock of horse crap. They just don't want you to know how to do their job because they don't want you to know whether or not they're doing it right or wrong. But this is the ultimate place to go so that way you can figure out how this stuff is really supposed to be done. And what a great place to go because it is going to give you detailed information. So we have up here Volume 5, Airman Certification, Chapter 2, Section 11. And it goes down here. Some of these things are applying to you and some are not. So I'm just going to kind of scroll kind of quickly down through here because I'll let you be able to go through and kind of pick out what you need. You'll know exactly what you need. Like, for instance, we don't need to know like the qualifications of an aviation safety inspector. We don't really care about that. But what about the airworthiness condition of the aircraft? Is that important? Well, sure, it's important because it tells you exactly what the ASI is going to be looking for before they start the check ride. And if you do that as a flight instructor, you're going to be very prepared for your client when you go to the check ride because you'll know exactly what they're looking for. It also talks about more information about knowledge tests and exactly what they would need to know. And so what is some additional things that you would need to know? Well, it gives a little bit more inline knowledge. We're going to see on down the line here about the knowledge test and exactly what you would need to have for that knowledge test. And again, when we get there, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to go down through. Here, authority and delegation says that the FSDO can have a DPE do this check ride if they want to, and that's all about that. And then If you're going to recommend a graduate of a 141 flight school, then that is that. And then Airman requirements for initial issuance. So these are the things I told you we're going to give a little bit more in-depth detail here. Like, for instance, when it talks about the aeronautical knowledge requirements, that FOI portion, you can see here that it says an applicant may satisfy the aeronautical knowledge requirements of Part 61, specifically 61.185, by showing an evidence of ground instruction in the specified areas, or, so basically you do ground with them, or presenting a certified college transcript, which that's not in the regs, or teaching certificate. So again, they hide stuff from us. It's not in the regs. They hide stuff from us. I mean, who would have known that you could have a certified college transcript and you would be able to opt out of doing all that stuff? You wouldn't have to have the ground school. So you have to go through this to really kind of know what you're talking about. And it goes through very specific things about the teaching certificate and what it should be, and all just great knowledge stuff. And there's some other stuff I really want to get onto here, but I'm trying to go kind of quickly through this because this is that information that's going to set you apart from other instructors with you knowing this information. This is really going to make you the pro instructor, okay? Additional ratings, logbook endorsement. So if we're looking at the logbook endorsements, what they need to actually see, this is what that would be there. And we see here that it says the AC 61-65 does provide a complete list of example endorsements required for a flight instructor practical test. You would simply just need to turn to the portion that says CFI in the AC 61-65, and there's that. So what about the English language skills, the AELS? Well, this provides more detailed information in that. And more of a way that you can actually see to yourself. I mean, how many of you have ever wondered as a CFI, like, how would I do that? Well, look and actually see what it says. It says that the inspector may ask the applicant to listen to a tape recording of an air traffic control clearance or set of instructions and speak and explain the clearance or instructions back to the ASI in English language. Or may ask an applicant to write it down in English, the meaning of an ATC clearance, set of instructions, or weather report, and speak and explain the clearance instructions or weather report back. So these are things that you can actually do, not depicted in the regs. Here's the practical test stuff. You get ready to conduct the practical test, okay? Spin training requirement, looking at exactly what are they specifically looking for in the spin training endorsement. What is exactly are you looking for in the 6187, the stuff that you're supposed to be done in flight? What if you're going to do a reinstatement that says the holder of an expired flight instructor certificate issued after November 1st, 1975 may have all the ratings reinstated by accomplishing a flight instructor additional rating practical test, if appropriate. For an additional flight instructor rating, an aeronautical knowledge test may be required. Refer to 61.183F if you want to add on an additional. Or you got the military instructor thing here too. So if that happens, you can just go here to actually see what that means. Because we changed the system in November 1st, 1975. So you know, with all this brand new stuff coming out, with the rusty pilots stuff coming out there, you may get some instructors coming out of the woodwork to you that actually really need to know, and going to the FSIMS could answer a lot of those questions. Reinstatement of an old instructor certificate. This is covered in 199, but not in detail, but it does here. So if you want more about those old instructor certificates, there it is. Let's see, old ratings, regulatory requirements. And of course, for 195, they must meet all the requirements of 195. There's exactly what they need to do. We don't care about the helicopter class. Renewal. So here's all the renewal things we talked about. Everything from 197, and we have all the things here. Pass a practical test for at least one of the following. Endorse at least 5 or training record. Endorse at least 5 students. 80% pass rate. All the company check pilot stuff that we find in 197. A graduation certificate for a FERC. And here's this one here that talks about if you're in a position involving the regular evaluation of pilots. And here's a big example of that, about what that means to be able to do that. And what if here's one that's not in the regs. What if you actually achieved your master certified flight instructor rating by the National Association of Flight Instructors, NAFI. You may use that to renew. I use that way to renew. I try to get my master's with NAFI every other year, and that helps me to be able to renew. And that's one way that is not into the regs. But check this one out. This is a really, really cool one that's not in the regs. You may actually renew your CFI by participating in the WINGS program, but I'm not talking about you participating in the WINGS program. I'm talking about you having your students participate in the WINGS program. Let's take a closer look and see what it means here. The holder of a current flight instructor certificate who serves as a flight instructor in the FAA's Pilot Proficiency Awards program and gives flight training to qualified pilots for a phased proficiency award may renew his or her certificate in accordance with the following criteria. That flight instructor must hold a flight instructor certificate that is not expired, hold a current phase of the WINGS program at any level at any time of application, which means that you must participate as well in the WINGS program, have evaluated at least 15 WINGS program accredited flight activities during which the flight instructor evaluates at least 5 different pilots, and make appropriate endorsements in the logbook, which can be found in AC 61-65, for each pilot for each activity. And then you would show the aviation safety inspector these things that you've done within the within the preceding 24 calendar months, and boom, you get renewed. So there are 2 ways there in which you can actually renew that is not listed in the regulations, which is listed here. And that's why it's important to be the professional and know about these items here. You can actually process your flight instructor certification renewal via U.S. mail. That is not prescribed in the regulations, and that is how that happens there. If you are renewal on the basis of acquaintance, this is something which is a very big misconception here, and it debunks it here, right here in the FSIMS. Looking at 61-197B renewal requirements, this particular one specifically talks about the FERC. And so if you want to know more about that, that is there. What if you were denied a renewal? Well, that would actually be a notice of disapproval. So you could actually fail a renewal. You can receive a notice of disapproval or a pink slip, however you want to call it, on renewal if you don't meet the requirements for that. And just a ton of more items in here which are really, really, really cool items to know about renewing your flight instructor certificate, especially if you ever do it with the FAA. It gives a special part in here about weather-related accidents and the need for flight instructor emphasis on critical weather situations and what they expected you to know. Why you should know about practice areas, why you should know about airman medical and flight instructor certificates and what that means to you, and could you use basic med. And there are just a ton of really cool little sayings, like little phrases in here that the FAA puts in here, and I don't know why they don't put them in other publications, but I just so love them so much. Like, for instance, this phrase is not found in the reg, and I love this phrase. It says, basic med privileges do not extend to anyone other than the person acting as PIC. And that actually really answers a lot of when can I use basic med questions. So they just have a ton of great stuff in here. Let's see what else they have. Flight instructor acting as PIC under basic med. A lot more basic stuff down here. Things you should definitely know about basic med and acting as PIC there. Just a ton of things. And these are things that the safety inspectors actually, would go over with you in regards to that to make sure you know those things. But if you've already seen it, you don't have to worry about it because you know exactly what they're going to go over with you. And then here's all the job aids. Now, what is a job aid? Well, let me tell you about a job aid. If you want a checklist of exactly what they're going to go through, that's a job aid. And for every single, well, not every single, but almost every single job that aviation safety inspectors they have a job aid form, and it tells them exactly what to do in regards to the renewal or reinstatement. So you can actually see that down here, It says here job aids, sample letters and figures, and we can scroll down. It provides a lot of samples for us that you don't see in the regs. And here's the procedure. So it says schedule the appointment and verify all this information, and the applicant arrives for the appointment and do all this good stuff here, and then go through IACRA, review the application, and make sure this stuff is legit. Because there's certain things that are not listed in the regs. Like, for instance, check to make sure a flight instructor applicant has a logbook endorsement, a signed application, or a written statement signed by the recommended flight instructor no more than 60 days before application for certification. What does this mean? This means that your IACRA better match your logbook endorsement precisely. One, because it says so in the Aviation Instructor's Handbook, and two, because you don't want your IACRA to time out before your endorsement. And remember that those are only good for 60 days. And that's it, 60 days. Which ways to verify an applicant's identity, general procedures that they would go through for their renewal process, how to renew it based off the wings, how to renew it based off the FERCs, how to establish eligibility. Just a wonderful amount of data. And I'm not going to sit here and read every single line to you because there's a lot of stuff, but I want you to really practice and get into knowing about these items. I want to scroll down here to actually show you like what happens on all these particular ones: satisfactory performance, task outcomes, future activities, what needs to be done. But look, here's actually a sample. So if you were to ever become a DPE, you know exactly how to fill out a temporary certificate, or this is actually a notice of disapproval. This is what this would look like, and this is a sample form, and it goes through and it shows you all the sample letters. If you want a letter of discontinuance, this is the sample letter of discontinuance. Here's a temporary airman certificate and what that would look for. Here is what the back of the 8710. So if you want to know what an examiner does on a paper 8710, well, there's everything that's required to do that. And if you do it with the FSDO, of course, there's nothing required there for a recommended instructor, because you don't need a recommended instructor to recommend you for the renewal or reinstatement. Here is actually using the WINGS program to do that. And let's see what else we have here. This is basically what all the inspector has to fill in at the bottom. And here's this in regards to WINGS program participation. This one is for a FERC and what it would look like there and how to fill that out. Another FERC. What do we have here? Based off experience there. Here's 141 school with examining authority, how you get that to do that. So I'm just going to scroll down here and see if there's anything else in regards to all these different things that you can do for this sample things, what the back of the 8710 should look like in regards to that. And that's it. I hope that this really helps you to understand greater extent of your trade and how you're going to do this. You're not going to find this anywhere unless somebody actually tells you. You're just not going to find it. So hopefully this will really help you and will make you more of that pro instructor. Folks, thanks again for joining me. This is a Patreon exclusive. It's not provided on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for being a loyal patron. This month is going to be a blast. There's lots of stuff coming out this month because I finally finished with all my regulation stuff. So thank you so much for being a loyal patron. Please tell those that you know want to be a pro to get on over to my Patreon and look at some of the valuable stuff that's coming down between now and the first of the year as I start to have more time to